Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Astrum Reacts. Today, we're gonna watch three disturbing true horror stories animated, again by 1C Entertainment. I'm gonna link the channel to the title of this video. And yeah, let's get started.
My name is Autumn, and I've had a few paranormal experiences in my life. This one happened several years ago when I was living in Longview. At the time, I often went to my boyfriend's grandparents' house with him. It was close to where I lived, and I really liked them. One day, he and I went there with two other friends. After we arrived, we all gathered around and downloaded a Ouija
This is a
board app
typical
on my
starting
phone.
of a horror
We
movie.
were really into paranormal
Downloading Ouija
stuff.
board and
Honestly,
playing on it.
we weren't scared at all. We tried it a few times and came into contact with several spirits. Two of them were far more specific than the others. The first spirit we encountered said her name was Peggy. We asked her simple questions, things like, how did you die, and are you trapped here? She claimed she had drowned in a swamp. Coincidentally, there was a filthy, trash-filled swamp directly behind my boyfriend's grandparents' house.
I mean, it's an app,
One of
man.
our friends got
This
scared
can be easily
and
controlled
begged us
by
to
the
stop, saying
programs,
she
right?
didn't want to hear anymore. We said goodbye to the spirit and tried the app a few
Maybe
more
it
times.
was using
but
their
this time,
location
the spirit
and then
appeared that refused to
conjuring
give
up a
us its
story
name.
based on that.
The friend who had been scared of Peggy started saying she had a really bad feeling about it. We all laughed it off, and just to mess with her, we asked the spirit, do you like us? The planchette moved to no, and at that exact moment, my phone screen began to flicker very faintly. We were all terrified and immediately closed the app.
This can be
Later
controlled
that
by the
night,
app itself.
everyone went home. I begged my grandmother, who I was living with at the time, to let me stay the night at my boyfriend's grandparents' house. Our families were close, so it wasn't unusual, and she agreed. My boyfriend and I decided to make the night a little more special. So we grabbed some drinks, we watched YouTube, took small sips, and talked. At one point, he got up to use the bathroom. When this happened, I was sitting on the top bunk, curled with my back against the wall. I could hear him coughing in the bathroom right next to his mirror, so I assumed he'd be back at any moment and relaxed a bit. I swear my eyes were closed, yet I could still see the mirror across the room, the dresser, the TV, and the game console. Then someone started talking to me. A cold but gentle hand brushed a strand of hair away from my face, and a voice softly asked,
Are you okay, baby?
Without thinking, I answered, yeah, why? The hand stayed on my cheek, or at least the cold sensation did. Then the voice asked,
Will you carry my baby?
What the?
I got scared, but I assumed my boyfriend was just drunk and messing with me. I replied, maybe when we're older, but not now, baby. The voice became more insistent. It started to distort, twisting into something deeper and unfamiliar.
She was also
repeating
drunk,
over
right?
and over.
Will you carry my baby?
What the?
I kept saying, no, this isn't funny anymore. Please stop.
Just open
Then I
your
heard
eyes.
my boyfriend's voice say, who are you talking to? Everything went completely black. I snapped my eyes open and saw my boyfriend looking at me, his
Bro,
face full of concern.
This must be a case of sleep paralysis or
assuming he
something,
was
right? She
joking.
must be hearing
I
something.
just walked back from the bathroom, he said, even more worried.
The first point
I
is she
heard
was
him talking
drunk.
to someone.
The second, she was asleep.
Without hesitation,
Closed her
I
eyes
jumped
and
off the
drifted
bunk
off.
bed and screamed at him to stop messing with me, that he was scaring me. He grabbed my hand and we ran out of the room into the living room. I couldn't understand what had just happened. I collapsed onto the couch and explained everything, crying because I genuinely felt like my life was in danger.
What?
He started tearing up too. As I told him what I had experienced, I realized something. He wasn't lying. Whoever touched me and spoke to me, it wasn't him. Neither of us slept that night. We sat in the living room until around 6 or 7 in the morning, then went into the bedroom, grabbed our things, and left for my house. As soon as I got home, I went straight to my room, curled up, and tried to sleep. Later, when I started looking things up, I came across old myths and legends about demons that drain life from women while they sleep. I hope I never experience anything like that again. It's too difficult to explain to others and even to myself. That night, I felt like I was losing my mind. I wanted to share this story because I used to believe that demons like that only existed in books. I never thought they could be real.
Yeah, I mean, this can be easily explained. She was drunk.
I want to share a story my grandmother used to tell me when I was a kid. She told me a lot of stories growing up, but this one always stuck with me. It was strange, sad, and deeply unsettling in a way I never forgot. When my grandmother was about 10 years old, around 10 years before the partition of India and Pakistan, she was living in Goa, India. Her family was deeply Catholic, and the church was a big part of their daily lives. Every Sunday, after Sunday school ended, my grandmother and her friends would play in the church garden while they waited for their parents to come pick them up. My grandmother's name was Alice, and she had 3 close friends, Ella, Jacqueline, and Marilyn. Ella was different from
Jacqueline
the
and
others.
Marilyn
She
is
was an orphan,
looking very
and there was always
evil,
something
yeah.
distant about her, like she was half lost in thought. While the other kids laughed and ran around, Ella would sometimes say she could see people that no one else could see.
What?
Some of the kids found that uncomfortable, but my grandmother was always kind to her. One Sunday, while they were playing in the garden, Ella suddenly stopped. She said she could hear someone calling her name. None of the other
Dude.
girls heard anything. Curious, Ella slowly walked toward a large palm tree near the edge of the garden. Sitting on the ground beneath it was a woman. According to Ella, the woman was breathtakingly beautiful. She wore a soft, white dress that looked like
Bro,
silk,
white dress?
glowed almost
That's-
like an angel, and smelled faintly of jasmine. Ella talked with the woman for a while. When Sunday school ended, one of the nuns from the orphanage came to call Ella back. Before leaving, Ella pulled my grandmother aside and told her about the woman.
Alice, I met a woman today. She's so beautiful and she smells like jasmine. She looks like a bride. And she lives near that tree. We're going to meet here every Sunday, so I won't be playing with you guys anymore.
Then Ella made my grandmother promise not to tell anyone, and because she was a good friend, my grandmother kept that promise. As time passed, Ella changed. She became happier, more outgoing.
Wow,
She got
that's a
deeply
good
involved in
change.
church activities, and there was something about
Look at
her, almost like she had a glow. Jacqueline and Marilyn, who had always been the most popular and active girls at church,
Yeah, I mean,
were
look at
jealous
them.
of her.
I knew they
They
were
even
very,
told my grandmother she should stop being
weird.
friends with Ella. Instead, my
Look at that.
grandmother chose to distance herself from them.
Yeah, exactly.
When my
good.
grandmother eventually told Ella about this, Ella didn't seem surprised at all.
She already told me this would happen.
Ella said. That's when my grandmother finally asked her what she and the woman had been talking about every Sunday all that time. Even now, her answer still gives me chills. Ella said,
Alice, remember how I told you I can see people others can't? She's one of them. She told me I was given a gift by God and that my parents are watching over me from
Oh.
His side. But she also told me something sad, that I won't live very long. That's why I have to enjoy life and why we shouldn't stay too far apart. She told me to forgive Jacqueline and Marilyn. She said resentment only
Yo.
poisons our hearts. And
I mean, it seems
whenever
like
she
a good
hugs
spirit,
me,
man.
It feels warm, like being held by my mother.
For years, my grandmother listened to Ella talk about the woman and the lessons that she learned from her. She didn't fully believe any of it, not until the war began. Ella passed away. Soon after, my grandmother's family fled and eventually moved to Pakistan. Even decades later,
Yeah.
my grandmother never forgot Ella. She never
I mean,
knew
you
whether
know,
Ella's experiences were real or just the
it seems like a good
imagination
spirit,
of
you
a
know.
lonely child. But one
Yeah,
thing was
maybe.
certain. That mysterious woman changed Ella's life. And even now, I sometimes think about this story and wonder, did Ella really see an angel?
Angel, yeah, exactly. That was a good story. Second part.
This
The
happened
final
when
one,
my
True
mom was
Forest.
7 years old. Back then, my mom and my
It's the final
grandmother
story, guys.
often went into the forest to pick mushrooms and wild berries. They did it almost every week, and even now, they still go sometimes. One day, after collecting a lot, they were
Look
on
at
their
the
way
guy.
back home. That's when my grandmother accidentally bumped into a man on the trail. They both apologized and went their separate
Look at the
ways.
face, bro.
My mom noticed that the man had a strange, unpleasant smell, but she didn't think much of it. A little while later, the same man appeared again, and this time he was following them.
Go away,
He
bro.
asked, "Are you here to pick mushrooms?" They both said yes. My grandmother replied.
Yes, but we're heading home now.
Then the man said, "Follow me. I know a place where there are a
Nah,
lot
bro,
of
dude.
mushrooms."
Look at the
At
face.
that moment, my grandmother felt a chill run down her spine.
Yeah.
She told him they needed to go home quickly. My mom was tired too and just wanted to leave. But the man wouldn't stop. He kept insisting that they follow him, again and again. Finally, they started running, and he ran after them.
I mean, look at
When
that.
they were almost out of the forest, the man suddenly stopped. He just stood there, staring at them, with a strange, unreadable expression. They ran all the way home. About 3 days later, my mom and grandmother went back to the forest to pick more mushrooms. This time, they took a different path. As soon as they entered, they saw several police cars. It looked like a crime scene. Later, they found out that it really was one. A police officer approached them and asked if they had seen anything suspicious. My grandmother told him about the man who had followed them.
Yeah.
The officer then showed her a photo and asked, "Is this the man? He's our main suspect." My grandmother froze. It was him. The same creepy man who had chased them. She was absolutely sure. She asked the officer,
So did he
What
off someone
happened?
there?
What did he do?
The officer told her that a young woman had been brutally murdered in the forest.
Joe.
My grandmother was terrified. My mom started crying uncontrollably. A few weeks later, a letter arrived at their house. Because they were witnesses, my grandmother was summoned to court. She testified about what she had seen. In the end, the man was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. About a week later, news came out that he had confessed. He admitted that he had killed 2 other women. The girl in the forest wasn't his only victim. After that, my mom and grandmother felt relieved. They slowly began going back to the forest again. But 4 years later, something else happened. There was a prison break in the area. Rumors spread that about 7 inmates had escaped, including him. After hearing that, they were too scared to ever return. They never went back to that forest
you and
again.
get out of my house.
Sometimes they still think about what could have happened to them. What if they had followed him to get more mushrooms?
Yeah. That was scary, man. To imagine reliving your life after thinking that, the murderer just got out. That was scary. Alright guys, like and subscribe. Please let me know if you'd like to see more of, animated horror stories. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.